Greg, thanks for coming today. Welcome to another episode of Regenerative Inspiration. I'm here with Coach Greg, and he's an author as well. We're going to dig in a little bit. We're going to have some stories of adversity, of course. Also, some definitely some deep thoughts on leadership and everything else. So thank you so much for coming here.
It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you having me in. And what great studio you guys have, by the way.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am actually born and raised East Texas. So my roots are here in East Texas. And I have been coaching and teaching for about 20 years now in several different roles. I've been a teacher, a principal, a coach, and I'm still an active coach. And then I took a step out and started speaking and doing different events. And somewhere in there, I wrote a book too. So that's a little bit about me. My wife and I have 4 boys. She's a physician in Tyler, and we have a bunch of Aggies in our family. So don't hold that against me. But yeah, man, we're all about some East Texas. We're all about family and just spreading the good word, man.
And you're in White House. White House is a super cute town. I think so anyway. So
yeah, when you hear White House, most people say Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
Patrick Mahomes. Did you coach Patrick Mahomes? And as I didn't, but there's a lot of people there that support Kansas City Chiefs. So we have a lot of that there. But it's a really neat town. It's a 5A school, big school district, but it still feels like a small hometown.
Yeah, so that's the only little pocket of Chiefs fans in the entire state of Texas.
Yeah, that's it. The rest are Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah.
And that's like myself. They're just hoping and praying every year. This is our year.
So here's the book. It's Time to Let Go. What does that mean to you?
I am no different than you or anyone else. We all have problems. And I'm just the one that talks about it. And in this book, actually a funny story, I didn't write this book with the intent of what's actually in the book now. The book that I was writing was during COVID, and I was writing funny school stories because in the education business, a lot of times we see so many weird things. We're like, hey, you should write a book. Hey, you should put this in your book. And so I started writing stories about that. Well, as I read what I was writing, I thought to myself, you know what? This is just good if you're in the school business, but it's not really what I want to do. So I just put all that to the side. And then I just started writing stories about my past. And I started writing stories about the times that I was not a good person. I was a horrible human being. And then all of the setbacks that I've had throughout the last few years. And all of a sudden I look up and I've got a book about a comeback story. And so that's what the title means. It's time to let go. We all have past. We all have demons. We all have things that we're not proud of. But you can start today with your comeback story and let these things go.
Yeah. Well, and there was a time you told me about this. I mean, you're living in an RV. It got that low.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that and rewind a little bit and then what it took to get out of that?
Yeah. There was a time that I was divorced, depressed, trapped in my own prison, broke, and I was living, as you mentioned, in a 20-foot RV trailer. And I was giving a speech not too long ago in front of junior high kids, and they saw the picture of it and they laughed and they said, Coach, that's not much different than a van. And so if you want to say that I was almost living in a car, I was. And it was a deep, dark place. I was not living a good life. I was a liar. I was a cheat. I was a phony. But a state champion coach, a motivational speaker, a principal of a school. It all looked great from the outside, but on the inside, I was a total wreck and a total mess. And so I ended up living there, and I think God humbled me quite a bit. But as far as getting out, I'll never forget the day that it all went down. I was pretty much fed up. I was at the end of the road. I was mad at God. I was mad at myself. And I had decided no more. I was just done. And I really didn't know, Will, where I was going. But I decided to get in the vehicle and just drive. I didn't know if that meant drive off the side of the road, drive into a tree, drive forever. But that particular day, it was storming like no other. And here in East Texas, for people that don't know East Texas, we don't know how to drive in the storms.
Well, and it could be raining 2 inches in a half hour.
And it could, flash flood is a real thing. And so people literally will put on their flashers and just stop in the middle of the road. And so that's what happened that day. I, for some reason, had gotten behind a car that would not let me go to the right, to the left, or anything. They had stalled in the middle of the highway in this storm. And I remember just beating on the steering wheel repeatedly and saying these words, God, just take it. And at the time, I meant just take me, basically. But God had completely different plans. what he had planned was, I will take all your burdens. I will take all your problems if you'll just come back to me. And it was almost like he was chuckling at me like, hey, I knew you'd be back, man. And so I ended up back at that trailer that evening, somehow on autopilot, because I don't remember driving. And things just started changing instantly. It's the craziest thing ever. You've heard of miracles. I'm a walking miracle. New job, more money, selling that RV, close to my family again. It's like God just started stacking great things on top of each other because I had finally let go. And that particular incident in my life, a lot of that is in the book, but that's a moment that I'm actually proud of. You know, it was not like that several years ago. I was not proud of any of this, and I would not share this with anyone. But it's a moment that I'm proud of because not only did it bring me back to Jesus, it humbled the lifestyle that I was living. But it also proved that, you know, I'm not the only one out there with these problems. There are so many people that have come up to me and said, you know, Coach, thank you for writing this. I deal with the same thing. Or my brother's dealing with the same thing. There's so many people with these types of problems that I didn't know existed. And so a lot of that in this book is to help the person that I used to be out there, whoever that may be.
So what do you think, you know, so just to clarify, so you were on a road and were you still traveling forward when that car was blinking, you couldn't get around, or they were just stopped?
I was traveling forward and that car put on its flashers and literally stopped in the road.
So you're
it's
stuck.
a 2-lane highway.
Yeah.
And so I'm stuck. There was no
cars
shoulder.
coming the other way.
Yeah. And I couldn't really see in front of me. And so I was just at my ending point of, not only am I frustrated with my life, now I'm frustrated at you, whoever you are.
Yeah.
And so that's when I just started banging on the wheel and
right.
asking God to just take it all.
And somehow you just kind of transported back to your house.
You know, sometimes when you get in the car and you're not paying attention and it's like you're on autopilot, you go from your house and you end up at Walmart and you're not real sure what happened in between. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. I don't remember the drive home. I don't remember anything other than that moment and then ending back at that trailer. And then immediately, Will, things started happening. I can't explain.
Yeah. So it was nothing that you did except you all of a sudden maybe had a shift in your head?
I did. And I think what I was doing was actually just surrendering.
Okay.
I think I was surrendering not only to myself, but I was surrendering to God, just saying, please, I can't do this alone. You know, I tried it. I tried doing it all alone and I thought I was a cool guy, but I was not cool. And so I think that's what that moment was all about, was about surrender.
Yeah. So you had a quote earlier, and this is something that I've had in my tagline for a long time, and it was a little bit different, but my tagline has been, what would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? Right?
Right.
So you had that in a presentation, and we were just at Rotary, and you had a presentation. I'm like, what? Did you see my tagline?
No.
And we had no idea.
Yeah.
But like, that is something that has spurred me on, because so many times, because we were talking about fear, right? Everybody has fears, right? And so, I mean, there's the traditional ones that people are afraid of, but then there's those that are the unperceived, or those that are not expressed, right? Yes. And I know in your book, like you jump into this, but from your own personal experience and from talking to people and coaching people and doing different things, what are the main fears that people deal with, and how can they get through them in a systematic way? Because we have a huge audience, so.
Yeah. You know, I think the number one thing that people deal with as far as fear is not death. It's not anger. It's not clowns. I think it's the fear of failure. And for so long, Will, I lived that nightmare. I just was so high on the mountain that I was very, very scared that what if I came off of it? What if I failed at something? What if I wasn't good at something? What if somebody didn't perceive me as being this person or that person? I honestly think that is the fear of a lot of people out there. They're just scared to death of failing. And I tell this to students all the time. I believe that students are really the ones affected by this. They're so scared of letting people down and failing. Not school. They don't care about school, right? But they're so scared of letting that coach down, letting their parents down, letting that teacher down. The failure aspect of anything, I believe, is probably the number one fear that I hear the most. And when you're dealing with something like that, I think the first thing that you have to understand is God made everyone different. Everyone has different genetics, has different traits, but he made every individual special. Everybody is special at something. It took me a long time to realize that, God blessed me with a lot of different things. And I think that everyone is blessed with some specific talent. But the first thing you have to do is, honestly, and I'm not saying this because the book's right here, but you got to let go. You got to let go of whatever's holding you back, what's got you trapped. Even if it's that fear, you've got to be able to let go of that first. Look at the person in the mirror and love yourself.
There was a boot camp I went to. It was more of like an entrepreneurial boot camp when I first had moved to Colorado, and went out in the mountains, and it was a group of people that we didn't know. And so one of the things that they had us do was to walk up onto like a stage and then fall back into somebody's hands, because you had to trust and you had to let go.
Right.
And there was some people that had a really, really hard time trusting other people and letting go of that.
Sure.
And I think, it's easy to say, let go. Like, what are some steps that people can, like, what can, if there's somebody right now in the audience that just is not able to let go right now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them first and foremost what we talked about a while ago. Everyone has issues. You're not alone. And I think that's the number one thing that traps people the most, Will, is they think, hey, I'm the only weirdo with this problem or that problem. I'm the only one suffering this. You're not alone. And the more and more that I get to present to people and talk to people and do podcasts like this, the more I see, you know what, we live in a world where people just have issues they don't know what to do with. It's so nice and comforting to hear someone else talk about it. Hey, now we have something mutual in common. We both have problems. Oh my gosh, how cool is this? I think that's the very first step, is the realization that you're not alone.
Yeah.
That is step number one. And then once you realize that, I think that begins the process of healing, whether it be from your past or whether it be from something that's going on right now. But the healing process has to take place at some point in time. Before you can love, you have to heal. And so I think, there's a big difference between being scared of something and having courage to do something. Being scared and having the fear is nothing more than emotion. It's the emotion. The courage is the ability, physical or not, to step out there and actually do something about it.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that, because all of us come from messed up families. We've all made mistakes, dumber mistakes than we should have made. Like, it's always better when you can make mistakes from other people's or learn from other people's mistakes, but we all keep making them. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You've already learned, you learned those 100 things from other people's mistakes, but you still made a big one here.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, we all do that, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as, I don't know. I think it's everybody, it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to make a mistake. There's nobody living a perfect life.
Yeah.
Right?
And, like I said in my presentation today for the people that are watching at home or listening, one of the biggest things is people get really negative quickly. And as entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur, we get negative in a hurry. This is going to fail. This isn't going to work. Oh my gosh, look at our bank account, blah, 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 blah. But my challenge to you and anyone else listening is, what if it goes right? What if it goes right? And I think a lot of times we're just trapped in the whole negativity. We get around people that are negative, or we just have negative thoughts that things aren't going to go right. But my challenge to you and anyone else is, what if they do go right?
Right.
Then you have something special.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely something to be learned. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar years ago, and proximity is power was one of his main topics that I took away from that at least presentation. Mm-hmm. But like those people that you surround yourself with, that's who you're going to become, right? And it's the same thing with friends too. And I know, my dad was a teacher as well. And so he had an example, and I've shared this before, but for those that hadn't heard this before, he was a woodshop teacher, right? So in detention one time, if you did something wrong, basically, or you had bad company, he would take you and put you up on top of the wood shop. I don't know if they would let you do that now, but like, this is a while ago. Okay.
Yeah,
so they're up. Okay. And he grabs their hand and he said, pull me up. And so they're like, I can't pull you up. You're much bigger than me. Right. He said, but look how easy it is for me to pull you down. Right. And he said, that's what bad company does. That the bad company corrupts you, gives you the wrong mind, like you deteriorates your hope, right? And so, like, look at those people around you, and those are the ones that are either going to support you or not. And if they're not supporting you, go find another tribe.
That's it.
And unfortunately, leaders sometimes are taking steps and all of a sudden they find themselves alone again and they have to go find another tribe again, right? Not that you're not friends with those people before, but you don't have to please them.
That's
you know,
right.
If they're not writing your checks, if they're not like supporting you, then move on.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell people this all the time, especially kids. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
right.
And they all have wide eyes and look at me like, I'm probably hanging around the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are you might be. But if you surround yourself with negativity, you will become negative. There's a chapter in my book, and it is one of the funniest sayings that I ever heard. And it was from one of my assistants long, long time ago, Carl Ivans. He's retired. He said, if you hang around yo-yos, you'll get yo-yo breath. And when I wrote that in the book, the publishers especially, were like, what does this mean? And I had to tell them, look, all it means is this. You are the average of who you hang around. So if you hang around people that are like this and like this and like this, like a yo-yo up and down, you'll end up just like them. And so you're exactly right. Surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with people that will hold you accountable and not always tell you how wonderful you are or whatever. But that's a big, big step in a lot of people's lives. Is you just mentioned the word people pleasing. And I was that person also. Not only was my past kind of rough, but I was in the people pleasing business too. And that is a hard thing to overcome. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I'm so popular. I want to stay popular. I'm all about me. And I had to get over that really, really quickly. And God humbled me, as I mentioned before. But, you got to make some tough decisions in this world. And sometimes decisions are stepping out of your friend circle and getting into a new one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And then the other thing too is now that we have obviously the internet and all sorts of different ways of like searching things, you can surround yourself with other positive minds that you don't know, and I think that's what a lot of people forget. Like you can continue to put great things into you that maybe isn't available in your local community. Because a lot of people will say that and they'll make an excuse because we love excuses, right? Don't we?
Sure.
But ultimately you're the one that has to keep yourself accountable. Nobody else is going to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big stepping point too, is when you realize like, as a coach, you're coaching the kids, right? And those kids need to take another step. At some point, you're not going to be their coach anymore. You're always their coach, right? But like, you're not going to be in authority of them at some point, right? Yeah. Then they're going to have to say, okay, it's another coach. What happens sometimes is that all of a sudden there's nobody above them to give them direction or whatever else, and they start getting lost because they haven't held themselves to a vision or to an accountability of whom they will be pleased with. Correct. As well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when you hear the word coach, a lot of people think, oh, that's my old gym teacher. He taught Texas history and, it was a blow-off class or whatever. But I had a lady tell me one time at a conference in Arizona, she was a millionaire. And she said, you know what? I'm tired of you saying I'm just a coach. You impact more people in this world on a daily basis than we will ever in our lifetime. And so what I'm trying to get to the point here is we are not only just coaches. The very first thing that we try to do is turn them into great men. Turn them into great men. I'm going to go back to practice here in just a little bit, and I'm not going there to teach them how to hit today. I've got something on my mind today that I'm going to teach them. And that is something that I believe God has called me to do, is not only coach the game of baseball or football, whatever it is, but to mold these kids into great leaders. Because you're right. Next year or the year after, I won't be their coach anymore. But hopefully they've taken some of the things we've taught them and they'll take it into the world so they can be great leaders, great men, great husbands, great friends, and they'll make better decisions.
Yeah. And that's so essential in today's day and age. So let's talk about the kids, because we bring up often how a lot of the high schoolers have very little hope, right? Yeah. College kids, hope. Maybe their jobs, they think they're going to go away with AI. Maybe they don't know because they've been told to go after this career and that career path isn't going to be there. Maybe they don't know if they're going to go to college anymore because they think they should be going into the trades. Maybe there's different things that they're running into and they're trying to please people, but they're not pleased, right? Like, and a lot of them have this empty, vacant hole, right? And I think part of that is the school system is very good at teaching everybody the same thing, but it's not really teaching you what you're best at, Because for me, it's like, okay, I was taught later on after I got out of school, like focus on what you're the best at, put all your energy there. And why? Because every battle in all of history where they put all the reinforcements where they were winning, won that total battle.
Mm-hmm.
If they put it where they were losing, they lost.
Mm.
So being a well-rounded person is not really what you should be focused on. You should be focused on your strengths, what you're best at, be the top 10%. You get all the accolades and make all the money, get all the notoriety, everything, right? So that's what kids aren't taught in school, is to focus on what you're best at. They're not brain typed either. Like most of them don't know how they're relating to information that's being sent to them, all right? They don't have their personality type, right? So they don't understand how other people are interacting with them. So there's some confusion as you're learning through this. But all that to be said, like, is there anything that you see right now that would be very helpful for parents or those leading these soon-to-be graduates or the high schoolers into a place of more hope, of better? Like, what would you say? And there was a lot. I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
No, actually, let's back up a little bit and let's start with this for the parents. The first piece of advice that I would give you is allow your kids to go through hard things. Hard is good. And I think a lot of times in this day and age, we shield our kids from hard things. We put it up underneath the rug, or we defend them, or we deflect it onto someone else. But I think it's very, very, very worthy, if you will, for a parent to allow a kid to go through some hardships. The world is hard. I mean, high school is just one little bitty piece here. The world is hard. And so I would say that first of all. But the second big thing I want to focus on here, look, I've been in education for 20 years. I've seen the good and the bad. And we're in a really odd situation now, as you mentioned, with AI and all the other things. But across America, unfortunately, we teach to the test. Whatever the state test is that our kids have to pass to be held accountable and all the things to get that diploma, we're teaching to the test. And so we're missing a lot of those things that you talked about. How life works. How do I change a tire? How do I do a checkbook? How do I open a credit card account? Like, we're missing all these in-betweens. But the one thing I want to mention is every kid is different, but college is not for every kid. And I think we just put that down their throat so much. Got to go to college. You got to get a high school degree. Got to play this sport. You got to march in the band, and you got to go to college. But college is not for everyone. And there are so many wonderful things out there. Trade schools, technical schools. And how about this? Here we are in Texas, for those listening. The oil field is booming again, if you will. Welding. There's all sorts of things that go on just in our particular state that make tons of money for kids who aren't college students, and they can go get a certificate. They can go get anything they want and still do it in a very, very small amount of time. 1.5 years, I can get this certificate and I can be making $100,000. And so I just think a lot of times we just rush them into college. They have no idea what they're going to study. Hey, pick this major or do this. And I think we have to pump the brakes a little bit and be open to your kid, whatever they're good at. And so sometimes what they're good at, Will, is not a college degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I found out today? First time ever, Auburn has a degree in sales.
Wow. Okay.
You know, it's funny. I remember hearing Brian Tracy years ago talk about, he was a sales guru, and like he always would say there is no degree in sales. Right. And like a lot of times people look down upon themselves around sales, and I'm like, everything is sold. The paper in this book is sold. The print, the graphic design, you know, your glasses, the shirts, the fabric that's in there, the transportation to get it there. Like sales is in everything. Everything. Yeah. And so like a degree in sales for the first time ever is kind of crazy. I don't know that you necessarily need a degree. I'm glad they're doing it, but like, I think it's important because degrees in entrepreneurism started showing up in the last decade, which had never happened before. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was until I got through college. Like, I didn't even know. I was one, but I didn't know what it was. I just made a lot of mistakes along the way and had a lot of interests and liked business and people, and you know, so, but I think, interesting enough, I think that everything that we're looking at today is shifting. We know that, like, and from a standpoint of what you're trying to teach to people is the character, right? Yeah. Is the work ethic of pushing through. Because I think if we have that and we can train that to people, then they can get through anything. I mean, even if you just take a little bite at a time, like, I mean, even if you feel overwhelmed, you can take a little shovelful and toss it, a little shovelful and toss it. And pretty soon you could actually dig an entire basement if you wanted to, buy a shovel, but just nobody does it because it's faster to hire somebody to do it with a backhoe. Right. So, but it's like, there's like chiseling away at these things and pretty soon you're at another place. But by the time you finish digging that basement out, you look at your muscles, you look at your endurance, you look at like the character that you've built with not giving up, right? That's what character is about, right?
It is. And it's about not only good character, but being consistent at it. And so I try to preach consistency more than anything, stacking days on top of days. We try to tell our players, get 1% better every day in something. And if you can do that, you have no reason to not be successful. You know, you mentioned that story. I've got to mention one of my favorite movies of all time, Shawshank Redemption.
Sure.
One of the greatest ones, where Andy Dufresne, a longtime inmate, just simply takes a little bitty hammer and carves his way out of that prison over several years, but he did it every day. And every day he went out on that prison yard and dumped what he had dug the night before. Consistent, stacking days on top of days. And I think that that's what we try to preach to our kids the most is, listen, guys, I don't know what you're good at. Maybe you don't know yet, but if you'll do something that you think you're pretty good at consistently and stack it day after day after day, you have no choice. You're going to get better at it. And it may or may not be the thing you do the rest of your life, but that's the start. You have to do the boring things, and consistency is boring, and leadership is not popular.
So I know you had a moment when all of a sudden you started getting like a drop foot and you were about to go into the playoffs. Talk about that, because you had a 3-week spell there, which turned into even more. Yeah. You kept your hope up. Now, how long ago was that?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So this is relatively recent.
Yeah.
Talk me through that, because I know somebody's going through something right now and you could have been completely demoralized there, and maybe you were for a moment, but yeah. I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, so I was coaching baseball, I was kickboxing, I was doing all sorts of stuff, just normal physical guy with no problems other than everyday problems. And I woke up one Sunday morning, we were in the second round of the playoffs, and here in Texas, playoffs are everything.
They are.
You better not mess with those.
You're going to get fired if you don't
get fired.
Right.
So here we are in the second round of the playoffs. I woke up with a little pain in my hip. My wife is a physician, so she invited me up to her office and said, let's run a few tests. And by Wednesday, this was Sunday when it began, by Wednesday I was limping, and by Friday, as you mentioned, I had foot drop. I could not use my right foot at all. MRIs and tests later revealed that I had some nerves that had been clamped off like a water hose between two discs. And the surgeon just basically said, look, you've got to be on the table in the OR tomorrow, 6 a.m., no questions, or you're going to lose the function of your leg and foot. Well, that's not in the cards for me. I'm too active. I've got still one more young boy coming up that we're trying to raise. And so I decided to have surgery. I had to leave our team in the second round. I had to leave it to our coaches and tell our players I can't coach anymore. That was a really hard thing to do. So not only was I suffering physically, now I was mentally starting to spiral a little bit. And then, as you mentioned, one surgery turned into 2 surgeries. It then turned into 3 surgeries. I had infections. I had blood clots all in me. And oh, by the way, somewhere in there, I became paralyzed. And so I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks when they decided to go ahead and transfer me to a major hospital in Houston, Texas. And as soon as I got there, they decided, you need to go back to surgery. So 4 surgeries in about 21 days. It was a lot on my body, but they found what the problem was and fixed me. And I was up and walking with the help of a walker and some nurses within 24 hours. It's a great story. But as somewhere in there, you know, I was asking God why. And that's the complete opposite way of doing things. When things go wrong and things go awry and you can't figure it out, you cannot question the man above. You cannot say, why are you doing this to me? Or why is this happening? It is all part of a master plan. I like to tell people all the time this. God is the ultimate offensive coordinator. He is up there scripting plays, X's, O's, arrows pointing everywhere, and every sheet in his playbook has somebody's name on it, and one of those sheets has your name on it, and you have no idea what the play is, but you better run it. And so instead of trying to fight it, and run a different play, you better run his play. And so he was just doing that for me to develop a huge comeback story in what I believe not only landed this book, but has also landed me a lot of opportunities to go around and speak to groups constantly about the truth, but also about what we talked about earlier. I have problems, you have problems, you're not alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have an awesome attitude about it now. Did you have that attitude going through it?
Going through it at first, absolutely not. I was angry because selfishly, I should be coaching. That's what I kept saying. I can't let these boys down. I should be coaching. We're in the playoffs. We're in the second round. We got a chance to do this and that. So I was being really selfish about it. I had a bad attitude. But after that second surgery, when I had more tubes running out of me than the before, and the doctors told me, we can't figure out what's wrong with you, I was humbled pretty good there. And so my attitude shifted from being angry to all of a sudden, I just had a peace about me and a calm about me that God was just going to take care of me. And so that's what I did. I just put my trust in him and I said, here it is at your feet, you'll heal me. And that's what he did. But at the time, there was a small time in there that I really didn't think I would walk again. And when you're doing everyday things, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, whatever it is, you start taking those things for granted. When you're laying on a hospital bed, strapped and can't do it anymore, you really are humbled and you realize every day is a gift. I tell my players every single day, and I tell my family this, look, whatever it is that you're putting off, do it today. If you're waiting to say I love you, say it today. If you're waiting to start this project, start it today. You have no idea what God has in store for you tonight, tomorrow, whenever. And so that's really what has opened up in my eyes, is doing things for the now and not putting them off. From family to my spouse to my kids at school or whatever it is, start doing and start living today, because tomorrow is not promised.
Do it now, never quit.
That's right.
Do it now and never quit. Yeah, there's a example of that. And so if I said, okay, tomorrow, okay, let's say 2 days, in 48 hours, we've got an all expense cruise to wherever in the world, Mediterranean cruise, Caribbean cruise, wherever, and you just need to be there.
Yeah.
Everything on your entire plate could be cleared in 48 hours because you would have urgency to get it done, right? What if you lived your whole life with that urgency every day, every week? You don't have time to check your social media. You don't have time to do other, piddly stuff that you waste time with, right? You're intentionally getting everything done that you need to get done to get on that trip, right? So living with intention, I think, is something that I think we've lost a bit. There's too many distractions in this world.
Yes.
To be real honest, there's just so many distractions. And we talk about, taking time for yourself, getting out in nature as well, grounding yourself, putting good things in your mind instead of bad things. Those are all principles, right? But if you could live that life with urgency, what would it look like is the question.
Wow. What a great question. I preach that to the kids all the time. You need to do this and do that with a sense of urgency. Not that run everywhere you go, but do it for the now. Do it right now. For me, in 48 hours, I can't even put a value on the love that I have for my family. I think what I'm not good at and I need to get better at, especially if I had 48 hours, is to tell my family everything I need to tell them. From the love that I have for them, for how proud of I am for this and that. I don't think we say it enough. I don't think we say it enough to one another, but I especially don't think we say it to our family, because what do? We see them every day. We see our son every day, our wife every day, and we just take that for granted. So I think I would start there, just talking to my family, speaking truth and life into them, and just telling them how much I care and how much I'm proud of them. Telling somebody you're proud of them can go a long way, and we don't do that anymore. We really don't. We just harp on the negative, and we may say, hey, thanks, or whatever, you did a good job. But how many times are people really sincere with you about, hey, I'm really proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. Like with me and you talking right now, I'm really grateful that you asked me to be on this podcast. I really am. Thank you. And this is great. You don't hear that very often. So I think I would start there with the people that are most important in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. It's easy to say no. Like today we could easily said, oh, we're a little bit too busy. Or,
Yes.
when we first talked a couple months ago, it's okay. Like, I mean, maybe, we could try it. Right. But I think there is that urgency. And I think that everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a story they can relate with. Everybody needs a little bit of extra oomph somewhere along the way. And so hopefully this is going to touch somebody's life. And that's my goal with every podcast, with the whole thing in general, is like, if I can help one person, that's it. That's all I need to do. Like, and it's like, we're good, and it's like, but we talked about the fear earlier, going back to that, because that's usually what stops people, right? Because if you say you're proud of them, then what are they going to want back from me, right? Or something like that. And it's not that way. No. Like it has to be this, honest in full of integrity type of way of saying it, right? Yeah. But going to the fear, it's like, okay, it would have been very easy for me to say, I don't like being in front of the camera. I had to get over myself. I've told people this a lot of times. I had to get over myself to come on camera in front of the camera. Because I've interviewed like 3,000 people from behind the camera. That's easy. I can make an engaging conversation happen. But like when I'm in front of the camera, well, what is somebody going to say? What if they say that? What? And at a certain point, you're like, who cares? Right. And then you get over yourself. Yeah. So I think more people need to have that attitude too, sure. Because too many people are uptight and worried about everybody else.
Yeah. So. And what's funny is, I'm glad you said that, because I tell the kids this all the time. What you're worried about and what you are just fascinated with that's wrong with you, most people don't care about.
No.
You're the only person that cares about it. It could be physical, and we may see it and we might laugh at it, but we're over it in seconds. You're the one that can't get over it. So yes, absolutely. It starts with yourself. Just let go and get over yourself, because the world really honestly doesn't care as much as you do about yourself.
That's true. Yeah. You really don't care.
No.
So, all right.
By the way, now that you're in front of the camera, you're doing a great job. So.
Thanks. Well, we're trying. So follow, share, like, everything,
Do it now.
Do it now and never quit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so if there was just like one more big nugget that you would leave for those that are hearing this, what would it be?
I think I just have to keep going back to the same thing. And that's this. If you're listening out there, I want to give you a little bit of hope. And I want to give you hope by just saying this right here. You are not alone. Whatever it is you're dealing with. It could be a hospital situation like I went through. It could be divorce and depression like I went through. But it could be something totally different. Financial problems. It could be problems at school. It could be problems at the house. Kids driving you crazy. Whatever it is, you're not alone. But I'd like to leave you with this. I have a story in here in this book. And I have a story when I go speak, and I have a story right here with this podcast. But so do you. And I would like to encourage everyone who's listening out there, your story is important. And your story could change someone's life today. Don't be afraid to tell your story.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you, everybody. And if you have a story and you want to come on the podcast, let me know. I can do them remote as well. So we've done that as well. But Greg, thank you so much.
It's an honor.
We'll put a link to the book in the bottom. By the way, that's his like nice facade or physique right there when he was first walking out, looking out for the first time, right?
Right.
After your 4th surgery.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure if you can see that right there or not. We'll zoom in on the cover, but what do you think was going through his head when he could actually stand up, look out that window? I'm pretty sure it's thankfulness, right?
Yeah, no doubt. That physique under that hospital gown was so tattered and beaten and worn out. I can remember looking out that window just thanking Jesus that I could walk again, because there was a time that I thought it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's a scary place to be in the hospital after 4 surgeries. No doubt. That is a scary place to be. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're walking. I'm glad you're here with us, and you have a message to say. Now you need to put a message in this book and sign it for me.
Absolutely. It'd be an honor.
Till next time.